I'm Esther Gidui-Yuat. It's Monday, August 21st. This is Africa 54. In a televised address, Niger's coup leader says the new leadership know the Nigerian people want war and remain open to dialogue. Prominent Egyptian activist Ahmed Douma and others are pardoned by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and greeted warmly by supporters in Cairo. And U.S. President Joe Biden visits Hawaii to assess the damage and impact of the wildfires that reduced parts of the paradise to ashes. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. We begin in Niger, where coup leaders are beginning to feel pressure from regional sanctions as they refuse to reinstate the ousted but democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum, whom they toppled nearly a month ago. The mutinous military officers are also fearful of being attacked by an ECOWAS force. In a televised address to the nation, Niger junta leader Abdurrahman Tiani says neither the coup leaders nor the Nigerian people want war and remain open to dialogue. Tiani also says the junta will launch a national dialogue to consult on a transition back to democracy, which he says should last no longer than 3 years.
Nigerians, my dear compatriots, I hereby reaffirm that our ambition is not to seize power. I also reaffirm our readiness to engage in any dialogue, as long as it takes into account the orientation desired by the proud and resilient people of Niger. Any coercive and ignorant approach to quest for sovereignty, security, and good governance, clearly expressed by the population, amounts to ignoring the deep-rooted dynamics at work in Sahelian countries, abandoned to their own fate for over 10 years by the very people who, instead of helping them fight the evils that beset them, now want to attack them today. Those who have taken these cruel sanctions and threatened to kill thousands of Nigerians hope to divide them and impose their will on our valiant people. They think they can force us to accept by force what is profoundly unacceptable, because it is contrary to our vital interests and cardinal values. They want to isolate our country at a time when our people most need community and solidarity to better face terrorism and insecurity. They don't seem to appreciate the scale of the backlash that military aggression against Niger would have on the whole region.
That was the Niger junta leader Abdurrahman Tiani speaking in a televised address. Supporters of Niger's junta on Saturday were forced to hold a census of people willing to volunteer for non-military roles, saying they had been overwhelmed by the numbers who turned out. They met on the same day. A delegation from ECOWAS arrived in the country and met with junta leader General Abdurrahman Tiani and deposed President Mohamed Bazoum. Travel Carol has more.
Thousands of mostly young men massed outside a stadium in Niger's capital Niamey on Saturday in a show of support for the military junta that has taken control of the country, and answering a call for people willing to volunteer for non-military roles in defense against a possible intervention by West African powers. So many turned up that organizers were overwhelmed and had to halt the census. Organizers of the recruitment drive said they did not intend to sign up volunteers for the army, but rather to gather a list of people willing to lend their civilian skills in case ECOWAS, the main regional bloc, attacks. But many of those around the stadium appeared keen to fight. This prospective volunteer said people are fed up with life in the country and want to see things improve. We noticed that with patience, asking doesn't work, he said. You have to do it with force. That's why I will give my life. I'm ready for it. The recruitment drive took place on the day a delegation from ECOWAS flew to Niamey to hold talks with the junta. The delegation met ousted President Mohamed Bazoum and junta leader General Abdurrahman Tiani during the visit. The acceptance of the mission by the coup leaders signals a potential willingness to negotiate after ECOWAS on Friday doubled down on its threat to use force as a last resort to restore democracy.
That report was filed by Trevor Corol of Reuters. Pope Francis is weighing in on the political situation in Niger, and he is appealing for peace.
I'm following with concern what is happening in Niger. I join the bishop's appeal for peace in the country and for stability in the Sahel region. I accompany with my prayer the efforts of the international community to find a peaceful solution for the good of all as soon as possible. Let us pray for the dear people of Niger. Let us also pray for peace for all peoples wounded by war and violence.
That was Pope Francis speaking from St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. Nigerians are divided in their reaction to ECOWAS sending troops to Niger to force the military junta to return President Bazoum to power. Some Nigerians support the move, saying that it is necessary to restore democracy in Niger. Others oppose the move, saying it infringes on Niger's sovereignty. They are also arguing that ECOWAS forces are not well equipped to deal with the security challenges in Niger. For more reaction, VOA's Paul Ndiho spoke to Titilope Adewusi, a Nigerian citizen.
Nigeria obviously is playing a leading role when it comes to ECOWAS. The current president of Nigeria is in charge of ECOWAS. We have this situation that has been unfolding in the region. Should Nigeria, as the head of ECOWAS, send troops to neighboring Niger?
My personal answer will be no. As the head of ECOWAS, they should do something. But is it about something that will lead to war? I mean, when I look at what's happened in Russia, Ukraine, I know that this is something that I don't even wish on my worst enemy, right? I wouldn't want it, no matter what, to get to that. And then I have to say, what is Niger fighting for? Honestly, I'm on their side. I'm completely on their side. Honestly, did they go about it the right way? Maybe not. But what are they fighting for? Is it, I'm in full support of what they are fighting for. So dialogue for me would be, how can we extend that? How can we support as much as possible? I know that there's a whole lot more when it comes to international matters. But for me, we must always do things in the interest of everyone, especially the owners of the country. I think that's what I'll be. We know that we need to also have the right checks and balance. So we want that. We need that as humans, right checks and balance. But I think it's important to look at all the factors. Let's not make it go into into war.
You make a great point. There are a lot of people who have said that ECOWAS evading Niger, it could actually spill into a regional war.
We are already in a delicate area generally, as a continent, and the fact that there are external parties that there's always someone that is benefiting from whether there's peace or whether there's war. We must never lose sight of that. Let's stand united for Africa, always promoting what is in our best interest. And I think our best interest, we are not perfect. I know that, as Africa, we can say a lot of things that are happening, but we must do things that are in our best interest without external third parties who have vested interest. For me, it's promoting the continent. I'm for promoting the continent. I'm for, dialogue, because I don't want war. I don't want war, for any reason. I don't want war in Niger.
There are people who say that allowing these coups to happen, ECOWAS not taking action, it's like opening up a Pandora's box. More coups are going to happen in the region. Do you think that's a likely scenario?
It is, and it's not something that we want to go back to. To be honest, democracy takes time to develop. Having lived in a country that has growing, democracy, it's hard. Getting people to agree to go in one direction is harder than just being a big boss and say, we're going left and this is it. But in the end, we can see the other benefits. We need democracy, that freedom of speech that comes with it, that freedom to, say what you think about the government, and you don't feel that someone's just going to pick you up and your whole family and, get thrown in jail. we need that for development, and especially in this age of technology, we even need it more. Things that there's checks and balances, but there's also that freedom. So I completely agree with them. It's just human nature. If you can get away with murder, then more and more people will consider it. They're just something that keeps us in check. When we know that a big brother is looking, and big brother is really not going to, he's not going to look kindly when you just step out of line.
Thank you so much for your time.
That was Nigerian citizen Titilope Adewusi speaking to VOA's Paul Ndiho from Lagos. Gabon's main opposition parties who have lined up behind a single candidate, former Education Minister Albert Ondo Osa, to challenge Ali Bongo Ondimba in Saturday's election are urging a boycott of legislative races after a last-minute change to voting rules. However, last month, Gabon's Electoral Commission announced that any vote for a local deputy would automatically be a vote for the deputy's presidential candidate. The Bongo family has ruled Gabon for 55 years. A prominent Egyptian activist, Ahmed Douma, was greeted by a jubilant crowd in Cairo after he was pardoned by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Saturday alongside other prisoners. Douma was a leading figure in the pro-democracy revolt that toppled autocrat Hosni Mubarak in 2011. In 2019, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison for rioting and attacking security forces. Douma and his supporters, who included opposition politicians, a filmmaker, and his lawyers, say they cannot fully celebrate until President al-Sisi has released all political prisoners. In a newly released report, Human Rights Watch says over the past year, Saudi border guards killed hundreds of Ethiopian migrants trying to cross into the Gulf Kingdom from Yemen. The allegations are being described as unfounded by a Saudi government source. The report points to a significant escalation of abuses along the perilous route from the Horn of Africa to Saudi Arabia, where hundreds of thousands of Ethiopians live and work. Still to come, a new development in Kenya is creating lots of buzz in Nairobi. Stay with us.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Lino Khmudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
In other news, Somalia's Minister of Communications and Technology, Jama Hassan Khalif, has ordered the country's internet service providers to turn off access for social media companies TikTok, Telegram and others, citing security and terrorism concerns. The minister says constant violations by terror groups using social media sites is affecting the safety and stability of the Somali society. Malawi has announced measures to end recurring fuel shortages, which started in 2021. Consumers are now facing long and winding queues at the petrol stations, and many motorists have chosen to sleep in their vehicles while waiting to buy fuel. Government authorities say measures are underway to restock their depleted national fuel reserves. And Russia and China are looking to gain more political and economic ground in the developing world at Day 3 BRICS Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa this week. Russian President Vladimir Putin will appear via video link after his travel to South Africa was complicated by an International Criminal Court arrest warrant against him over the war in Ukraine. U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are scheduled to visit Maui Monday to assess the impact of wildfires that reduced parts of the Hawaiian archipelago to smoldering ash. VOA's Arasha Basadi has more on the devastation and how some residents are coping.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor.
As rapidly spreading wildfires left Hawaii's second largest island smoldering, pilot Richie Olston saw it all from his cockpit.
Hundreds of homes leveled down to the ground. The historic section of the town is destroyed. All the historic buildings. Lahaina used to be the capital of all of Hawaii. Even the boats in the harbor were burned down to the water. They're gone.
What started as a brush fire quickly escalated amid a perfect storm of high winds and dry conditions that scorched the historic town of Lahaina in Maui, burning much of this commercial and cultural hub to the ground. Maui's emergency chief Herman Andaya resigned during the disaster amid criticism for not sounding the emergency sirens typically used to signal tsunami warnings. Andaya defended the decision, saying tsunami warnings drive people inland, and in this case that meant straight into the fire. His resignation was officially due to health reasons. More than 110 people have died in the fires, a number that is expected to grow in the coming days. The number of people missing remains unclear, but Hawaii first responders recently received reinforcements from the Department of Defense. Members of the U.S. Army and National Guard joined search and rescue teams, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, says relief efforts have so far been a success.
Right now, the search efforts are 78% complete in Lahaina town. And we continue to have our teams on the ground going through all of the structures that were lost as a result of this fire. But we've also given out already over $8 million to families that have been impacted and registered for assistance with FEMA. And our shelter population is down to just over 40, with over 1,200 people that have been moved into hotels, motels, and other types of short-term rentals.
President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are scheduled to visit Lahaina Monday. For area residents struggling to get basic needs met, Biden brings a sense of hope that relief will quickly go where it's most needed.
I'm very hopeful that him coming in will help expedite a lot of products coming in, a lot of supplies that aren't able to make it. Like the guys I found out from guys that are staying at the hotel that if it's not FEMA certified or Red Cross, they're not getting the supplies that are waiting outside their door. So, it's frustrating.
Even amid a global outpouring of donations and support, the Bidens will be visiting a disaster zone marked by the deadliest wildfires in more than a century. Arasha Basadi, VOA News.
New development in Kenya is creating a buzz in and around the city. The Business Bay Square Mall is situated in the busy Eastleigh district in Nairobi. Many people are hoping the mall will be a game changer for the business landscape on the continent. Saida Swale reports from Nairobi.
It's a Saturday afternoon on one of Eastleigh's busiest streets in Nairobi, Kenya. Traffic, both human and vehicles, is choking the streets as they look for a good bargain. For the traders who can't find space in the busy market, the pedestrian sidewalk sometimes becomes an option. A few blocks from this hustle and bustle is a sight to behold. The Business Bay Square Mall, or commonly known as BBS, nestled in the heart of the vibrant Eastleigh. The mall is now home to about 2,000 wholesale and retail outlets, says Dalma Abdi, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for the mall.
BBS Mall is the largest mall in Eastern Central Africa. It's about 330,000 square meters in total when you look at the retail space, the non-retail space, as well as the parking.
22-year-old Ilyas Yusuf is from Somalia. He didn't want to miss out on a chance to set up shop here.
The customer of this place, it is little bit. Mostly customers are coming Saturday and Monday. The market is okay.
The mall is yet to officially open, but customers are already flocking in, an opportunity Nasteha Muhammad and her mother took advantage of. They have 2 adjacent stores that deal in curtains, carpets and furniture.
Before we moved here in BBS, we were outside Isli, in Tolof Street, we had shops, but they don't have the, when customers are coming to Isli, they normally don't have the where to park their cars, but here in BBS, they have.
This is just phase one that comprises of stores, restaurants, banks, hospitals, a play area and a state-of-the-art mosque that will serve approximately 2,500 worshippers once completed. The second phase will have a residential area and a hotel. Grace Chelagat, a customer, says she has trekked a long way to experience the mall.
We love the place. We come all the way from Buruburu to Carrefour because even the security is good, the place is good and the reception is good.
The billion-dollar development has attracted international brands too, and upon completion, it will provide job for at least 10,000 people, Communications Officer Abdi says.
I mean, this place has become a city within a city. Now we've created a city within that city.
Originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo, another customer, Lorenzo Masamba, says he visits the mall often.
The mall is modern, it's beautiful. I'm very proud of seeing such kind of thing in Africa. Yeah, we are very proud and we love it.
This property is basically redefined Isli. If you look at the area as a whole, you're now able to now come into the area, park in a secure parking. We have over 1,400 parking slots. You're able to do your shopping, get in the wholesale that Isli is known about, all the great deals in electronics.
The value of properties around the Business Bay Square Mall has almost doubled due to the improving infrastructure and vibrancy that the new developments have brought to the area. Saida Swale for VOA News, Nairobi, Kenya.
Now to Zimbabwe, where voters go to the polls on Wednesday to elect a new president and lawmakers. The presidential race is seen as a tight race between incumbent President Emmerson Mnangagwa of the ruling ZANU-PF party and main opposition leader Nelson Chamisa of the Citizens Coalition for Change. In recent days, Mnangagwa, 80, is alleging that some unnamed international observer groups are trying to tamper with the elections. Meanwhile, Chamisa, 45, is promising a wind of change for Zimbabweans, a country that is beset by poverty, high unemployment and corruption. More than 6 million people have registered to vote. Petroleum fuel consumption has dropped by nearly 1/3 in Nigeria since President Bola Tinubu scrapped an expensive fuel subsidy in May. Authorities are now looking to promote alternative fuels. Timothy Obiezu has more from Abuja.
Nigerian contractor Friday Awadi runs his fossil fuel-powered generator at least 8 hours a day to mold blocks for construction. Awadi says since opening his business a year ago, the government has stopped paying fuel subsidies and his energy bills have tripled.
We have intention to shut down the business completely because we know that we're going to work and not making any profits. And it's unproductive, very, very. The consign and all of that, so we started to look for an alternative.
So, Awadi converted his generator to run on liquefied petroleum gas, and his energy cost has dropped to 1/3 of what it was before.
I realized that the generator run more efficiently, smoother, and that also means that it would allow the system to perform with the optimal performance.
Nigeria was spending hundreds of millions of dollars a month on subsidies to keep fuel affordable at pumps. Government officials say the money saved by ending the program will be used for crucial projects. Meanwhile, Nigeria's petroleum regulatory authorities say that in June, daily petrol consumption fell by 28%. Natural gas is not the only alternative gaining popularity among Nigerians.
This is Nigeria's first assembled electric car. When fully charged, it can cover a distance of around 500 kilometers.
Authorities unveiled the electric car in 2021 and say they plan to expand access to production and use.
We believe Nigeria is right and the solutions are available to really take advantage of. So the removal of subsidy actually would open up doors and opportunities for these alternative forms of energy.
But Nigerian inventor Reginald Umaru Bamiji says access to charging stations could pose a challenge. Bamiji created an electric car that recharges itself while in motion and says he's talking to authorities about adopting the prototype.
You know, in Africa particularly, the power supply is not there. So even when they build charging stations, where is the power to supply the charging stations? That's the issue. But with this system, globally, we have solved the problem of electric cars.
Earlier in July, President Tinubu announced a handout of $10 a month to poor households to cushion the rising cost of food and transportation. But until there's something more sustainable, many like Awodi are getting inventive to try to get by. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.
Though we are concerned by the lack of transparency in the tabulation process for the June 24, 2023 general elections in Sierra Leone and irregularities in the election results announced by the Electoral Commission, we applaud the people of Sierra Leone for participating in the elections, which play a vital role in any democracy. We reiterate our support to transition processes in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea, and continue to call for a return to democratic governance. We reiterate our call on the transition government in Mali to pursue an independent, impartial, efficient, comprehensive, and transparent investigation to hold accountable those responsible for the civilian killings and more in Mali. We remain deeply concerned by the spread of instability in coastal West Africa, both from national political dynamics and the proximity of violent extremism in the Sahel. We cannot ignore the fact that the Wagner Group is committing human rights abuses and endangering the safety and security of civilians, peacekeepers, and UN personnel.